Hello everyone, Larry Satchwell here, back in the kitchen, and more raspberries recipes. I'm trying to cut up here into small cubes 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and it's frozen. That's why I've got the giant knife. And I'm going to cut these into like 1/4-inch pieces or 3/8 bigger, something like that. Now this recipe is for scones. I should have said that earlier. And it is raspberry season here. We have black raspberries. You know, they started off as red raspberries. They were, I think we had Heritage, and we had a variety at one time that was for the Carolinas, and they were in too much shade. And about 3 years ago, I moved them to a sunny spot in the garden, and wow, they have really taken off. But they have also morphed into black raspberries for some reason, and they taste like red raspberries. They're a little stronger than red raspberries, but they're definitely not blackberries. They are raspberries, they're just black. We have one stem of a variety out there called Glingo, and I really wish we could get some more, but every time I try to buy some, they are out of stock. They are a thornless raspberry. And I picked these yesterday on a windy day, and some of the canes, they're so long they were slapping me in the face. Anyway, this is a pretty simple recipe. We're going to make a dough first. And right here I have 2½ cups of flour. I know it's in a 2-cup container, but there's actually 2½ cups in here. So this is just all-purpose flour, nothing fancy about it. And to that, I'm going to add 5 tablespoons of granulated sugar. And to that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of baking powder. Make sure I've got my computer right over here. And this is fresh baking powder. We go through enough baked goods that our baking powder stays pretty fresh. A 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. We don't have tea salts. Easy for you to say. We do not have sea salt, but we have kosher salt, so I'm going to use that. Just takes a little bit, 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm going to pulse this a few times to get it mixed up. All right. To this, I'm going to start dropping in a few of these pieces of butter, a little bit at a time. No reason to cut them up if you don't drop them in a bit at a time. Come on. All right, I've got all 6 tablespoons in there. I want to keep this going. I don't want any big chunks of butter, and there are still lots of big chunks of butter, so a little bit more. All right, now I'm going to get the wet ingredients ready. Clean my hands and some of this mess up, put my butter away. So I've got my flour in here. I want to work kind of quick because I don't want that butter to melt. I've got a heaping cup of raspberries in there, so I need to add my wet ingredients. And I'm going to add those in this bowl. I've got 1 large egg, and this has actually been in the freezer for a few minutes because we keep our eggs on the kitchen counter because they're fresh. You might see them over there. We've got several dozen piled up over there. I need 1 cup of heavy cream. And 1½ teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm going to mix this together. I don't want to make whipping cream though. So this is where this part gets a little bit messy. So I've put on some gloves. I'm going to pour my wet ingredients into my dry. And then I'm going to mix this until the dough forms. We don't want to overwork this. All right, I think we're ready. Spread some flour here. Maybe I'll do it this way. I think that got 99% of it out of there. All right, I'm going to spread this out. I can still feel quite a bit of lumpy butter in there. Not sure what that's going to do to the scone, so hopefully make it more. And this should be interesting. I've never done it this way before. But I'm going to spread my rinsed raspberries out here. And start working them into this dough. That's why you don't want to work the dough too much before you put the raspberries on. And this is going to make the dough a lot more moist with those raspberries in there. And these are what my hands looked like after picking all these raspberries yesterday, so I'm avoiding the stains today. I think I need to add some flour to my surface. I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to look like. But I think I'm done. You don't want to overwork it, like I said. So I'm going to spread these out to about 3/4 of an inch. And kind of try to get it a rectangular shape. Okay, so at this point, I want to let this rest for about 15 minutes. And while that is resting, man, I'm glad I used those gloves. I'm going to turn the oven on. So while that's resting, I'm going to start the oven. I'm going to set it to 425 and let it preheat. So we've got 15 minutes for this to preheat, and while that's doing, I'm going to prepare the pan. I like to spray a little Pam, I'll use that term, on and it really helps the parchment paper stay where it belongs. Pro tip, like I'm a pro baker. So while this is resting, I'm going to make the topping. There's 1 large egg in this bowl. It's the same bowl I used to hold the raspberries. 1/2 teaspoon of granulated sugar, and it said a pinch of salt. Again, sea salt. So I'm going to add a pinch and throw the rest over my shoulder. And we're going to mix this together. And that should do it. That should do it. So the timer just went off. My oven is at 405. You can't cut these into circles, but I'm going to cut them into kind of rectangles. So I already have this knife dirty. And I don't think this is going to be easy. I probably have a cup and at least a quarter of berries in here because we have so many. I'm gonna make this one thin. And I think I should have maybe doubled the recipe or something because this is really sticky stuff. Okay. We'll see if we can get this. There goes the oven, right on time. Not bad. Let's start up here. Here's the topping. And it said you don't want to let this drip down the sides because that will prevent them from rising. So I'm going to be very careful and just try to get the topping on top. And once you get it on top, you need to wait 1 minute for the topping to set up a little bit. And then we'll add some more sugar to it. These are by no means even, but that's the way I like it because Karen won't eat much of one. And I like a big one. All right, I'm gonna turn my camera off and clean this mess up. Be right back. So I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time to clean that up, so it said to put about a half a teaspoon of sugar on each one, which looks like a lot. So I'm gonna put about a half a teaspoon on 3 of them. I don't like things real sweet, and these berries are not very tart at all. Okay, into the oven for 13 to 18 minutes, and we're going to flip them around halfway through. So I'm going to put these in the oven and set the timer for about 7 minutes, and then I'll turn them. They're huge. Well, 2 minutes later, and when I flipped them around, I made a small pot of coffee. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think that's British tea time. These may not be the prettiest scones in the world, but I bet they taste okay. I think that said to wait another 5 minutes or so for them to cool off before you tried one. I think I'm going to try this big thick one. It may not be done. Ooh, it's hot. Should have gotten a plate. Couldn't wait. This is really good. There's more back in there. And it's done perfectly. And that's hard for me because I don't, well, brown is my red and green, so they look brown. I'm gonna see if these will freeze. Well, this was from the Sophisticated Gourmet, and I'll of course put the recipe and all the directions and link down below. One, two, three. I think I made 10. 2, 2, 4, 6, yeah. I think if I made them round, you were supposed to get 7 or 8. I think using more than a cup of raspberries was okay for me. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in the kitchen. I want to make a raspberry pie, I think.